my guys, gals and non-binary pals, and welcome to a new video by Dan Fatales. My name is Alicia, my pronouns are she, they, and in this video we're going to discuss the relationships and sexuality education curriculum which is coming to schools in Wales from this academic year from age 3. And how some 5,000 parents decided to go to court to avoid this and keep their children ignorant, because of course keeping them safe learning about sexual health and relationships is not something that they want, evidently. I don't know, we'll find out. But before we get started, let me thank our Patreons and let you know that if you like what we do here and would like us to dedicate more time to it, you can check out our Patreon too. You can give us a monthly support there, or you can give us a one-off donation on Ko-fi. And if you do so, thank you so very much, and let's start the revolution together. So what is the topic of discussion? First of all, I'm doing this improvised, and I'm taking a leaf out of T. Noir book, because I remember her saying once, I have personal experience of this, she needs no sources. And unfortunately as that is, I have the same. But let me not get ahead of myself. The topic at discussion, of course, is sex education, although from the guidelines given by the Welsh government, it's much broader than that. Sexual education takes just one part, and then there's education about relationships and safety and respect amongst people. So it's sort of also civic education, if it makes sense. A lot of parents, a lot on the basis of religion, freedom of religion, I refuse this on the basis of my religion, don't want this to happen, to the point that some children have just been pulled from school. So now they are stuck with, can I just say, ignorant and uneducated parents that prefer them to keep them ignorant rather than keep them safe. Why I say keep them safe? That's the matter of why am I qualified for this? There needs to be some trigger warning here. We're going to talk about child molestation, sexual abuse, a lot of non-consensual stuff, the risks of not knowing this kind of stuff, terrible sexual hygiene, that kind of thing. So if this topic upsets you, understandably, I'll see you in the next video. You still here? You ready for this? I feel very self-conscious talking about this because I mentioned it here and there in other videos, but I don't like to go in depth in it, and understandably. My experience with the situation is that I come from a country that has no sexual education whatsoever, goes pride of it still. By the way, if you're in Italy and there are elections at the end of September, the main candidate for the right fascist, Giorgia Meloni, goes still proud saying that, oh, we managed to avoid sex education so far. Because there is no sex education at any point from kindergarten to high school, sex education is not a thing at any point in Italy, that left me very vulnerable to abuse. From birth until I was 12 years old, I was molested by a parent, and at 14 I was molested by a man 10 years my senior, who, with the approval and encouragement of my parents, would sleep in my bed for a year. And at no point I thought that this was a problem, because nobody told me any different. So something that I can say from the get-go is, if sexual education and relationship education had been given to me about right and wrong, about what a power imbalance is, that would have definitely helped me not fall victim of this kind of behaviors. And something that adults get away with is the idea of let's keep this our secret, and there are a lot of issues with it, but they mostly get away with it. So the main thing that came to me from this rebellion against having sex education in Wales is the only people that are gonna get advantages from this are the abusers, because when children don't have the language to explain what's happening to them, or they're made feel special and they're not told, it's not the case when there's such a power imbalance from an adult. It's an issue and it goes untold, and I'm not surprised that it comes from people that claim to be extremely religious, because we all know the issues with sexual scandals that the Catholic Church has, and how religious zeal is what keeps priests safe because victims are not made feel safe to talk or made feel like there's anything that they can do. And I'm not saying this lightly, again, coming from a Catholic country, it's a well-known secret in any kind of community based around the church. And the community just lives with it. It's problematic, this kind of zeal. But anyway, let's see what the government document actually says. What is the advice? How is it gonna impact the curriculum of children aged 3 to 11? It's in 3 phases, and it's age 3, age 7, age 11. And each phase has different levels of knowledge imparted about relationships, sexual health, and empowerment and respect. So actually, the part of sex education is minimal, is 1 out of 3. So my first suspicion is parents who like to have control over their children don't have an interest in children learning what an adult needs to be in order for them to feel safe and that they can trust them. It's literally a part of the curriculum, but let's look at it directly, shall we? So the first part is relationship and identity. As you can tell, phase 1 starts from age 3, and you just are taught the ability to act with kindness, empathy and compassion, interact with others, and awareness on how to communicate wants and needs, and awareness of how to relate these needs and how they relate to your own rights. Awareness of different kind of relationships, so with family, with friends, that kind of thing. Recognizing the learner's rights to be treated fairly, kindly and with respect. So far you see how there can't be quite an opposition to basically teach children how to respectfully live in a community. From age 7, there's a lot of recognizing the characteristic of what a healthy relationship is, whether it's with family, friends, or peers. So a lot of it is directly trying to fight behaviors and prejudices that would lead children to bully each other. And from age 11, we start to talk about relationships codified in law, so kind of marriages, the fact that there's a civil partnership, the fact that these things have evolved. So, and this is noticeable even in the other parts of the curriculum, the entire concept of LGBT is not brought up until age 11 anyway. The second part is sexual health and well-being, which supposedly it's what these associations are so strongly against. So let's try to understand why they're so against the fact that children aged 3 are taught this kind of thing. What are they taught actually about sexual health and well-being from age 3? The use of accurate terminology for all body parts. I don't know if you've seen the news, I've linked it down in the description below, about the social worker who couldn't quite understand that a child 3 or 4 in age was communicating that there was an issue and kept saying, "My uncle has licked my cookie." And the social worker just told her back, well, just ask for another cookie next time. And until there was a meeting with the parents where the mother talked about how her child had a rash on her cookie, the social worker did not connect the fact that, oh, it's because she's told that her vulva is called a cookie. And so she understood the kind of sexual abuse that was going on kinda too late. So terminology is very, very important. What is a penis? What is a vagina? What is a vulva? What are the different parts? Those are not loaded terms themselves, are the scriptures as it's finger or arm or nose. But a lot of people that hide behind the religious zeal don't even want that. So again, the issue is keeping ignorance, and ignorance is only gonna damage the kid that cannot say, an adult touched me on my genitals. And awareness of the human life cycle and that reproduction is a part of life. The infamous, there's a man, there's a woman, and I guess instead of the stork is they sleep together, not necessarily with much description to it. And then there's a baby. Consider that we let especially girls grow up at that age around 4 or 5, playing with dolls that are basically babies and they play mother. The fact that we can allow that but not explain to them that babies are made out of adults, it's a bit bizarre on us. Awareness of how bodies changes as they grow. I remember thinking around 8, 9 years of age, when I was starting to grow hair under my armpits and my pubes, I was actually scared. I thought that something went wrong, because why all of a sudden this hair is here? Because nobody told me, oh well, you know, it will happen just before puberty. How is it bad to basically make a child know that nothing that is going on in their body is bad? The amount of Reddit posts of scared boys that do not understand that they have phimosis, so not enough foreskin to completely go down and be able to clean their penis properly, it's insane. And they are scared shitless because, of course, it's something that has to do with their genitals. They can't keep themselves with proper hygiene, and they are so scared and ashamed because it's about their genitals that they get issues into adulthood. If we teach them what is supposed to be like, then maybe they will not go through those issues. But at the moment, apparently, that is still better. It's better for a boy or a girl to be ashamed and not talk about their genitals, even if they have actual health issues about them, than knowing what happens to their genitals as they grow. A recognition that everybody's body is unique and special to them. I would like to think that this has also to do with appearance and disabilities, but that's just my hope. And even if it's sexual health, one of the points is awareness of different feelings one can have, recognizing other people's feelings and how these may differ to your own. That's part of the sexual part, ironically. But this is the most important part, that if you ask me, is what scares most of these parents that have gone to court to avoid this. Because from age 3, children are taught to recognize trusted adults who can help them and whom they can talk to and ask questions of, especially when they feel unhappy or unsafe. Now, any adult that makes them feel unhappy or unsafe, if they are taught in school that those things that they are made feel by adults or made do by adults are not right, children are gonna be able to stand up for themselves. And because most abuse comes from family and relatives, you can see where this is going. LGBTQ people are not even mentioned until age 11. Menstrual health and hygiene starts being taught from phase 2, so age 7 onwards. And considering that girls can get their period at age 9 these days, it's better that they know what's gonna happen, unless you want to banish them to a hut for the days that they bleed, like we used to do in olden times. Or maybe you let them know what's gonna happen to their body when they menstruate, so that they know what they need and what to do. Here's a bit of, again, personal story time, because I didn't want my parent anywhere near anything that had to do with my genitals. I managed to hide the fact that I had a period for 4 years after my menarche, so the first period that I had. I had my first period at 12, and up until 16, I managed to hide that because I didn't want my abuser anywhere near knowing anything about anything that has to do with my genitals. So every month I was making do with rags, just not to have my genitals be at the center of the attention of the adult person who already had a morbid fixation with my body. That's what ignorance does. I had no one to go talk to. Their sexual education was not a thing, so I couldn't go to a teacher in school, tell them, ask them. There was even the concept of having sanitary products in schools. So for 4 years, in my teenagehood, every month I had to be this amazing actor, pretending that I was fine, pretending that I didn't have a period, finding more and more excuses not to be brought to a doctor, because at some point the idea was, well, why haven't you got your period yet? No person, no child should have to go through that because they don't feel safe about something as normal and natural as their period, because they might have an abuser at home, or they have never been taught what it is apart from something a bit dirty and shameful and don't talk about it, and they are given no support in school and they have nowhere to turn to. This is what ignorance does. The last part of the curriculum is called Empowerment, Safety and Respect. It has actually nothing to do with sex at all. Most of the parts, again, LGBT people are not mentioned until phase 3, so age 11, and it's just in a matter of human rights. So unless you want your children to be able to think that they can abuse anyone that is different, not surprised, that is not something that you should not want for them. It's part of what I think it's similar to civic education, how to be a good citizen. The understanding of fairness, the understanding of behaviors that can be harmful or abusive to others in what they do. Again, I will link the entirety of the document from the government down in the description below. But as you can see, there's nothing damaging and all that is knowledge to empower these children to understand who they are, what they're going to grow into, and what is a decent person in the world. Because it's about decency, it's too hard for me not to think that these parents are not happy with their children being decent people. And why would that be? So, next point then is, what does the Public Child Protection Wales says that the document from the government says? Nothing of what you just heard. There's a link to their explanation of the document, which actually doesn't even touch the document, touches advice that was given at a UK level. And then the funniest part is the last bit that they say it's classroom resources that have been used in sexual education. Where we don't know, there are no sources. It will be interesting to do an image reverse research on Google. But they're quite amusing, if I may say so myself. They claim that these have been put in classrooms. And their description of what is going to happen goes like this. Relationships and sexuality education in Wales, it's going to include self-stimulation age 4-6, masturbation, what's the difference? Bondage, anal sex, pornography, facial ejaculation. I mean, we just went through the document of the government. Where did they see these things? The damage that these parents are doing to their own children by pulling them from schools and spreading misinformation is either because A, they have not read the document and they have just heard hearsays of fear-mongering and they're just repeating that. But that's kind of ignorant, isn't it? Like keeping on repeating something without having checked. So the worst option is option B. They have read it. They just don't want their children to even name their genitals appropriately due to what I can only imagine is, indeed, religious zeal. Here need I remind you again that the sexual scandals of the Catholic Church are known to be so diffuse exactly because of this religious zeal. So the issue to me is that these people are fighting something that doesn't exist in that form. Pornography, bondage. They're claiming that these things are taught to children 3 years old and over, which is not the case. They have picked these pictures that they claim are part of classrooms randomly from Google, and they're telling people, this is what's going to happen, that's why you need to fight with us. And that's something that I will never understand about anything that eventually ends up in the far right side of politics, claiming and shouting very loudly about something that is not real. TERFs do the same, and to me it's so easy to debunk and to find the actual information. Like the Welsh government website has the document that tells you things. None of that even remotely will bring anal sex to children aged 3. Facial ejaculation, by the way, pornography does need to be addressed for probably 7 years old and over, because they have phones now. They will find it themselves, and if nobody tells them that's not real, that's not how life and relationship are supposed to be, you're gonna have your very religiously zealous children grow up, guess what? Being abuser or abused because they think that that's normal. Pornography is not normal, and they need to be told. And by being told, they need to be aware of the word and the meaning of a pornography. So to me, any parent concerned for child abuse should be supporting the presence of this kind of curriculum from early ages. Ignorance is what allows abusers to get away with the shit. Like the stuff of, oh, let's keep this little secret between us. Oh, you're so mature for your age. And children do not understand because they are not told that these are not compliments. Oh, you're so mature that an adult trusts you with a confidence that it's your secret. Or you're so mature that someone 10 years older than you suddenly wants your company. But that's because it's a compliment, not because it's such a power imbalance that will lead to abuse. Those are predatory behaviors, but in a society where we're being taught that the point is being special, not like our gender mates, then being better than our gender mates, it's what is valuable. We are taught that these kind of behaviors hit home in a good way. They make you feel special, but they put you at risk at a much earlier age than you think of. And how do you fight the simple bad intention of any abuser, which, need I remind you, usually come from home or from relatives? How do you fight the bad intentions of all these people? With education. Like everything, you fight it with education. You teach children the difference between what's right and wrong, not according to your Bible, but according to what happens in life. They are going to be subject to people that are going to try to take advantage of them. The best thing you can do is letting them know what the right words for things are, what is right and wrong in a context of consent, which they cannot give until adult age. So the compliment of being so mature doesn't give them more ability to consent. They need to understand what their rights are, how their bodies are changing, not being scared of them, not trying to hide them from you, parent. If you make them ashamed and try to ignore sexuality, the only thing you're going to achieve is not for them not to develop a sexuality, is for them to keep it hidden from you. And maybe that's what you want. Maybe not knowing it's better. Is it going to be better when their ignorance is going to bring them to hide and defend their abuser and allow them to get away with things? And I think that the only people who will say yes to that are the abusers who are trying to get away with things, and it's in their interest for children to be kept ignorant. But let me know what you think. Like, maybe I have too much skin in the game, which again, I feel like it should be a good thing. Any parent that thinks, oh no, my child shouldn't be subject to this. Well, this is a child, grown up, that was presented no sex education whatsoever. And this allowed for abuse that I shouldn't have gone through and I shouldn't have survived. And if you want anything good for your children, you want them to be able to defend themselves from the get-go of the idea of abuse. If they had told me that even a parent shouldn't have had access to certain parts of my body past the age where I should wear nappies, well, I would have grown up very differently, very likely in a different home from where I did. But I wasn't taught that that was a thing. I genuinely believe that my parent had the right to all of my body all the time. And I am sure that some parents love the idea of being able to have that control, and therefore educating their children to let them know that's not fair, even from a parent, even from a relative. I do understand why they're scared. I do understand why they would pull their children from schools rather than having to face the fact that they are not being good parents. I know that this was a heavy subject. I wasn't sure whether to make a video about it or not. But again, I have skin in the game. It's something that I've experienced firsthand. My home country of Italy still thinks that it's an achievement to have avoided sexual education so far because we are a Catholic country. And the level of abuse that children go through in Italy from their family that are taught that it's normal, it's indecent. And I'm a living example of it. And it took me so long to even consider and understand that that was abuse and not just normal. But it shouldn't be. If you care about your children, you will give them the means to understand and therefore to defend themselves. This was hard. This was hard, this was hard, this was hard. I don't like it, I don't want to do this kind of video. But if you can help one person, hey. I swear to God. That should be basis for social services to consider looking into families and how they treat their children. You want to pull your child from sex education, you need to be looked into. What are you trying to hide? Why don't you want your child to know what is happening?
Yeah.
They have a fund to defend themselves in court and trying to take the government in court. I say let's fucking make a fund and a petition to ask social services to look into these people.
Yeah.
If they have nothing to hide, we're all friends as we were before. Fucking hell.